Hey everyone, it's Ethan or Miist back again for another video today, and welcome back to the channel, guys. We're here again for yet another video. Today we're going to be talking about every movie I watched last week, and had a pretty chill week. Only watched 12 movies last week, which is pretty low for me, believe it or not. So, yeah, real quick, let's get into it. Also say hi to Betty. You can see her back there, my cute little peanut. I see you, I love you. But yeah, let's get into it. I'm actually going to start off with a season of TV, which I've talked to you guys about plenty of times over the past 2 months, which is season 6 of Modern Family. Another really awesome season of Modern Family. The lowest season I've ranked is a 90, the highest a 92 out of the first 6 seasons. I've really enjoyed them all. Mel and I kind of took a little bit of a break after after the week where we watched like 3 seasons. But we ended up finishing season 6 this week, and we started season 7. We're about halfway through season 7 now. So, nonetheless, Modern Family season 6, yet another great season of TV that I really enjoyed. So let's get into the movies for the week. Like I said, only 12 movies this week. Actually, a pretty calm week for me. And let's start it off with a 2025 release, which is Hard Eyes. This was actually kind of one of my most anticipated movies that is currently in theaters, and that's coming out in the early months of the year, where not a lot of good comes out of the early months of the year. I was really looking forward to this movie, and unfortunately, I think I might have just had my expectations a little bit too high heading into it. The trailers looked really awesome, and it looked like it was going to be like a new cult classic horror icon slasher film. And it's not really that. It really is more of a romance or a rom-com than anything, which nothing against that. I think my expectations were just leading towards something different, and ultimately it kind of led me to feel a little bit disappointed walking out of the theater. I ended up going to see this with a few friends, and they thought kind of the same thing. They liked it a little bit more than I did, but yeah, overall I felt just a little bit disappointed leaving the theater, unfortunately. But I am excited to see how Hard Eyes does become perhaps more of a mainstream horror villain, and we'll see what happens. I do think this movie was pretty predictable, and there was a few cool kills and a few cool things. But overall, I was a little disappointed with this, unfortunately. So let's move on to one of the themes of the week, which was Jason Bourne, starting it off with my least favorite, which is The Bourne Legacy, which seems weird to even really call it a Jason Bourne movie, considering it is a part of the Jason Bourne universe, obviously, but there's no Jason Bourne in this. There's no Matt Damon in this, which I do feel like this movie kind of lacks. Nice to see Rachel Weisz in it, though, nonetheless. I didn't love this movie either, to be fair. There was some pretty sweet action in it, but it just doesn't really hold up compared to the original trilogy, I would say. So it was okay. Ranked at a 54 out of 100. It was fine. Let's move on to Jason Bourne 2016, which is the newest of the Bourne franchise, which I ranked at 58 out of 100. Not much better. A little bit more interesting, but watching this movie, I kept seeing scenes that I've seen before, which I didn't think I'd actually fully seen any of these movies, because I know I've seen many of the Jason Bourne movies in passing with my parents growing up. They loved these movies. They watched them countless times around the house, and I just, like, some of the scenes from some of the movies, I just remembered seeing them. But this movie, I like probably about 60 to 70% of the movie I remembered seeing. So I think I might have actually watched this at one point, which I didn't really know I had watched any of the Bourne movies. Nonetheless, this was decent. It was okay. I liked it a little bit more than The Bourne Legacy. Yeah, not really much to say, I guess, for this one either, unfortunately. But yeah, like I said, it was okay. A 58 out of 100. So let's move on to Sense and Sensibility, directed by Ang Lee, who is one of my directors I want to work on this year. I'm almost done the films that I want to watch from his filmography. I really just need to watch Brokeback Mountain and then maybe one or two others. But yeah, Brokeback is the biggest one that I need to watch, so maybe I'll get that done this week. Nonetheless, Sense and Sensibility is a pretty interesting rom-com, romantic film, period piece, which I didn't love. Obviously, I ranked it a 60 out of 100. It was okay. There was a lot of drama. Overall, I just thought it was fine. There wasn't really anything I loved, but there wasn't anything I really disliked either. So, a flat 60 out of 100 for Sense and Sensibility. Let's move on to The Bourne Supremacy, which I do believe is the second of the original trilogy, which I ranked a 71 out of 100. Some pretty great action, some bigger set pieces and action sequences from the first, with a lot to enjoy, truthfully, in this movie. Ranked it a 71 out of 100. Thought it was good. I would like to rewatch the original trilogy. I do think it's pretty solid, and I would like to give them even more attention at a later date, maybe later this year or in the future. Nonetheless, I want to rewatch this trilogy because I think I would enjoy it even more on a rewatch. Because again, there's some really awesome action throughout this trilogy, well, throughout the franchise. But yeah, some great scenes, a great twist, some good action. Overall, a pretty solid movie. 71 out of 100 for The Bourne Supremacy. Let's move on to The Bourne Identity, which is the first of the franchise, which I ranked a 73 out of 100. Also enjoyed this movie. I wasn't really expecting to love any of these movies, truthfully, but heading into it, I enjoyed them a lot more than I ever thought I was going to. So yeah, and I didn't even really rank them that high, but overall, like I said, I just enjoyed them more than I thought I was going to. And yeah, this is a good way to open up the trilogy and this franchise, and I ranked it a 73 out of 100. Let's move on to The Bourne Ultimatum, which I had no idea. A lot of people consider this to be the best of the franchise or the trilogy. I also had no idea that this was not only an Oscar nominee, but an Oscar winner, winning 3 Oscars back in, or for the year 2007. So that's pretty cool. Didn't know that. And of course, one of the most iconic lines in action movie history is "Jesus Christ, that's Jason Bourne." Love that. I've seen that countless times, and just super iconic. I feel like this movie's probably is the most iconic of the trilogy, and this one I really want to rewatch. So again, I'd like to rewatch the trilogy. I think that'd be fun to do maybe sometime later this year. Rank this one a 75 out of 100 though. All right, let's move on to yet another franchise. Starting it off with Toy Story, which so far on rewatch is actually my least favorite of this franchise so far, which I ranked a 79 out of 100. Yeah, lowering the ranking from an 89 out of 100 down to a 79 out of 100. I haven't watched Toy Story in a few years, and I finally get to go through the original trilogy with Mel this week. We didn't get to watch the fourth or Lightyear, which hopefully we'll get to do this upcoming week. But yeah, this was I don't know. The more I watch the first Toy Story, the lower my ranking gets, which is a little sad. Because I always remember quite enjoying this movie growing up and when I was younger. But now, the more I watch it, I think the animation is outdated and almost poor at this point. I just don't think the animation has aged very well. And again, every time I watch this, my ranking gets lower. So that kind of sucks. But yeah, Mel also does not love this movie. Let's move on to Toy Story 2, which I've seen some people over the past few years kind of saying that this is better than the first. I've never been in that camp. I never thought that way before until this rewatch. Mel and I watched them, I think, back to back. Yeah, we watched them back to back. And Toy Story 2, I ended up enjoying just a little bit more. I thought it was a little bit better. The animation looked a little bit better, a little bit more interesting. Like the addition of Bullseye. Bullseye's one of my favorite characters, probably my favorite character in this franchise. Absolute cute horse. I love Bullseye so much. But yeah, 81 out of 100. Liked it just a little bit more than the first, and honestly, that was quite a surprise. I really wasn't expecting that. So let's move on to the top 3 of the week. Another movie I finally got to show Mel is TMNT. This is a childhood staple for me. one of the most iconic movies in my childhood, perhaps one of my most definitely one of my most watched movies of my childhood as well. This flew by, and again, I'm just very glad I get to show Mel this movie finally, because it's something I've been talking about a lot over the past few months, because I never watched it last year. I don't believe I never rewatched it last year. So it's nice to revisit it always, plus my boy Chris Evans is in it. And this is just one of my favorite movies still to this day. I think it's a really great, awesome, quick action sci-fi movie with a lot of good action and some pretty solid drama as well. And the fight between Leo and Raph on the rooftop is truthfully one of my favorite fight scenes in, I'll say, animation. I don't want to say ever, but animation films. So that's really awesome. And again, I just love this movie very, very much. Mel even enjoyed it, which was a pleasant surprise. I didn't think she was going to love it that much. But she actually enjoyed it, which I was very happy about. So 95 out of 100 for TMNT. Moving on to number 2 of the week, which is Toy Story 3. This was Mel's favorite of the trilogy. This is my favorite of the trilogy. This is most people's favorite of the franchise and trilogy, which it is mine as well. And Mel and I were both just in a pool of tears at the end of this movie. It was so sad, but so good. And it really made us think, obviously our toys probably aren't alive, but like Mel and I talked about it, I can't even remember any toys I had in my childhood. I remember having a few Bakugans, but like I really don't remember any of the toys I played with growing up, which is really sad. Like that's a memory that I don't even have anymore, and it's sad to think about, really. So, Mel remembers she used to play with a lot of Barbie, so it was nice to see Barbie in this for her. But yeah, overall, this movie is really one of the best Pixar has to offer. 98 out of 100. I actually raised the ranking from the 96. And so far to date on rewatches, going through the Pixar movies with Mel, this is my favorite. Just ahead of Cars. And let's move on to my favorite watch of the week, which is Captain America: The Winter Soldier. If you guys know me, you know this is one of my favorite movies of all time. Back in the day when I first started Letterboxd, this was my number 3 in my top 4. It has since gone down a little bit. It's still in my top 5, I believe. I believe it's number 5 right now. Still one of my favorite movies ever. One of the best the MCU has to offer. And just, it really holds a special place in my heart. It's probably mine and Mel's favorite movie. This is one of our movies. We love this movie very, very much. The action never disappoints. I love the directing. I love the action. I love the score. I love the acting. I love the cast. Everything about this movie is perfect. And yeah. Well, that's it for everything today, guys. This video ended up going a little bit longer than I thought it was going to, just since it was a small week. So nonetheless, thank you guys all so much for watching. Hopefully you did enjoy, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye-bye.